What's up, everyone? Nate Sarantino here, back with another episode of the Guided Spirits podcast. And today I want to talk about trust. And trust is the most fundamental piece to the foundation of any relationship. And for that matter, the fact, for many ways, you're gonna be looking for trust when you're learning anything new. You don't want to learn something from someone you don't trust, because as like many people know, there are quote unquote snakes in this world. People who will give you false information to see you become worse, just to make them feel better, or to this literally blatantly watch you get worse. It might not even make them feel better. Now, there could be any reason for this, but you need to be careful who you trust. And that's the first step. And the first thing I want to talk about is, whom should you trust? And no one can tell you, like, who this is. No one can tell you who to trust. You have to choose who you want to trust based on logic, common sense, and intuition. You're gonna have feelings about something, and your gut instinct is always gonna be one of those things that you should listen to over everything. Because if you were in the wild and you truly didn't know any better, that gut instinct is more than less of the time going to be the thing that saves your life. And you should learn how to truly listen to the thoughts into that, in that little voice in your head that says, oh, be careful of this person. Be careful of this news source. Be careful of this Instagram profile. Whatever it may be, you don't know who you're getting your information from, and not only that, it's who they're getting their information from. Because almost all the time, no one's creating this stuff on their own. They're not creating all the content solely from their own mind. Like, they're this like, oh, I just thought of all this stuff. No, they're finding stuff online and then they're putting it together to give it to you, but they can put that together and then they can give you a bunch of BS. They might not actually be helping you, and you often have to filter what is true versus what is false based on connecting the dots. And these dots are the facts. Like, you're not going to have all the facts to be true. That's the difference between something that's true versus something that's fact. A fact isn't always true. It's just like that way. And if you realize that someone can tell you something that they believe to be a true fact, but when it comes down to your experience and how it affects you, some things affect people differently. And the way it affects you, if it's not the same, like, you got to be careful. Like, everyone's on their own journey, and to understand who you can trust and what you can trust them about, those are things that you have to find out for yourself. But you really do have to listen to your intuition, and don't let anyone tell you who you should trust. And this brings you right into, why do you trust someone? And it really is you determining yourself why you trust them. And you may respect the person that you want to trust a lot, like a news source, for instance. Like, many people watch Fox News, many people watch CNN. You may want to trust them with all your heart, and you may hear all this other side of the story saying something completely different than what your news source is saying, and you're like, how can I trust either side if they're saying they're saying the opposite thing about the same situation? Well, that's where it comes to trusting your gut instinct. And maybe you have to go to a third, a fourth, a fifth news source. Maybe you have to find a bunch of different sources, and if you take in all the information, you can connect the dots yourself and figure out what's going on yourself. That's why being a free thinker is so important. You have to understand that you can't always trust everyone. You don't, to me personally, They're really the only person I trust more than anything on this entire planet, and it's Yahweh, and that's like the infinite creator. I trust him over everything because I don't know who is and who isn't there for me at all times. And I know that if God put it in my life, I know it's for me and like for me only. And that's just how it goes. Like, you have to understand and believe that like what's meant for you is meant for you, and if it's not meant for you, you're gonna find out. Like, it won't work for you. Like, it's gonna do the opposite. It's gonna take away from your life instead of add to your life. And this comes to knowledge in many cases. If you're learning information, all knowledge is powerful, but some knowledge might actually be hurting you more than helping you. So if someone tells you a fact, like, oh, eating like canola oil and frying your food, like eating french fries from McDonald's, isn't actually bad for you, but then you realize that eating a bunch of fried food is gonna, practically speaking, this stop your heart. And it's just gonna raise your cholesterol through the roof, and it's not actually like butter that's doing it. And you have to understand by connecting dots why you should trust someone who's saying one thing over the other, and where did they get their information. Like, how did these medical textbooks saying that seed oils are good for us come from. And you have to go down to the root of everything. Always go back to the root. And that's what brings me back to Yahweh all the time, because if he is the quote unquote creator, well, he's the root of everything. So if you can trust the root, that you should start from there and then move out. Like, Mac Miller has a quote, like, retracing my steps back to biblical times. Like, you can't be focused on the present unless you understand where you came from. That's the value of studying history, but you can't just live in the past. You have to live in the moment. And when it comes to that, you have to understand who you're trusting in the moment and what they want for you in the future. It's all about looking at the bigger picture when it comes to trust. And how trust can be gained is when someone wants to see more out of you, they're going to give you chances to earn trust. Trust is many times earned, and it's not given. And the stakes have to be to a certain degree in order to earn more levels of trust. And by someone giving you the opportunity to build trust, you have to follow through with not only your words but with your actions, and following through using the truth, and by gaining this trust. Like, if you say you're gonna do something and then you do the opposite, well, first of all, you lied, which is not the truth first, and you're gonna lose trust instead of gain trust. And trust can be lost immediately, like within a split second, like the moment, instantaneously. And lies are the number one way to break trust, and especially in repetition. It's one thing to forgive someone for like a mistake, it's another thing when someone's constantly deceiving you and they're using like things behind your back. Like, corruption is a great way to lose someone's trust. And that is why many people don't trust the government. And it's why people don't trust these big corporations and big companies, because the corruption is how you have lost their trust. You don't know what's going on. You don't understand why they're doing the things they're doing, but you have to imagine it's because of the power. It's because of the greed for more. And I've heard stories where, like, you hit a certain point where you get so much, you're like, wow, like, I really do want it all. And you just get so power hungry, or so hungry for, like, more, like, materialistic goods, to the point where, like, you just don't ever hit the break. You just keep going with them. And that is a very dangerous spot to be at. And you always have to understand that, like, anything can be taken from you immediately, and that means trust included. Like, that can be taken from you immediately by anyone, and you have to treat trust like it's a baby. You have to care for it, and you have to really give it all the energy it needs to develop trust into something that is actually going to help relationships and not take anything away from them. The bottom line here is trust is fundamental to all relationships, just like the foundation of a house is fundamental to its structural stability. But on the other side is trust is at the top, meaning it's going to be the last thing that is lost in most relationships. And when you break this bond that we call trust, it basically breaks the relationship, because that foundation is gone and you can't build anything on the lies. You will only be able to build off of the truth, because the truth is at the top. So it has to be at the bottom too. You can't have something that is at the top and only have it at the top. It always is going to be in both areas. Something at the bottom won't be at the top, but something at the top is going to stem down to the bottom, because you have to look at the roots. And like Carl Jung said, like, in order to reach the like heavens above, you have to go to the depths of hell. Well, that's the idea of like this trust that being at the top, and like the truth being at the top, and trusting the truth. And you have to understand that the truth goes all the way down to as far down as you can possibly imagine. And it comes down to trusting in who you want to trust, why you're trusting them, and how to gain it, and making sure that you're not losing it. With that, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening, and if you learned anything, please share this.